Good morning. I know that this is really different from what I usually do, but I thought I would read you a story. At least I would start reading it, and then if you're interested in it, I could go on with it next time. So, this story is called It Was Dusk. It was dusk, and Oliver Harris walked by the cottage with the quaint shingled roof for the 100th time since he had arrived in Sandville. He had kept count. Every night, rain, heat, humidity, whatever the weather or the temperature, he walked. And as he walked, he clicked his little metal counter at every street light. When he first began, he could only walk 10 down and 10 back home. Now he could walk 50 down and 50 back home, mostly uphill. And he was 30 pounds down from when he had begun, too. Every night that Oliver walked, he noticed the cottage. There were pumpkin vines trailing around a tree near the road. A scarecrow was attached to the tree, looking like it was standing on a hay bale. There were chrysanthemums and black-eyed Susans springing up here and there, and there were metal pieces on sticks cut and painted to look like ripe corn growing from the hay bale. Dried speckled gourds were scattered about to complete the country look. On the narrow porch was a miniature cottage on a table. He saw a cat go in and out of it. Sometimes, when it was light enough, he could see the cat watching him from one of its little windows. He could hear a dog barking from inside the house every single time he passed. And a voice would holler for the dog to stop, but it never obeyed. Sometimes the front door would open and out would run the little mop of a dog, barking frantically as if to chew him to bits. But it never ventured outside the yard fence, even when the gate had been left wide open. The first week or two Oliver had been walking, he mainly took in the outsides of the homes. But then, as the days grew shorter and his walks longer, he realized he could see into some of the windows as lights were coming on a bit earlier. Most of the older homes were situated behind foliage or had closed blinds or heavy drapes. But the cottage was a fairly new addition on this road of 60 and 70-year-old homes and always seemed to have windows the same way, blinds down, but tilted slightly, so if the lights were on inside, he could see in. What Oliver saw as he walked, night after night, only looking a little each time, so as not to be obtrusive, was a welcoming-looking living room-kitchen combination. It seemed right for a cottage. There was a lot of wood and overstuffed floral furniture in earth tones. Lace valances hung from every window, and all Oliver ever saw was a single body moving inside. Most often, as he left on his walk, he would see the person moving about the kitchen. On his way home, he noticed the person by the reflected light of the television sitting on the couch. Since Oliver worked during the day and ran errands for his aunt on the weekends, he rarely noticed if the person who lived in the cottage ever was outside. But his curiosity was piqued when he mentioned it to his aunt one day.
"Oh, stay away from that one, Ollie. She's divorced. Divorced and a Roman Catholic."
While his aunt was still waggling her finger at him, Ollie asked, "How do you know so much about her? You hardly get out yourself."
"Is that impertinence I hear, Oliver? The neighbors come over and keep me up to date on what's going on. That's how I know what I know."
Oliver mentally went down a list of the folks who lived nearby on the road. He wasn't sure even from his superficial acquaintance with them, that he'd believe anything they said, especially since it seemed like they had nothing good to say about this poor woman. Not that there was necessarily anything good to say, but they sure were anxious to keep his aunt up on what was bad about her. "Well," said Oliver, "seems like she'd be lonely, what with all the neighbors thinking so poorly of her." Oliver's aunt raised herself up a little taller in her wheelchair and pierced him with a look he remembered from childhood.
"Don't you be feeling like you need to ease her loneliness. You got plenty to do to keep you busy round here."
Oliver laughed and said, "Don't worry, Aunt Mattie. I'm pretty busy enough, it's true." But that evening, on Oliver's way home, clicking off the streetlights, he slid on some pebbles in the road right in front of the cottage and dropped his counter. While stooping down to find it, he looked up towards the cottage windows. There was someone on the sofa, lit by the flickering lights of the TV. The person held something white and put it to her face. Oliver squatted down, feeling for the counter with one hand, but never taking his eyes off of the person in the window. The white thing sailed through the air and another appeared. Oliver suddenly looked down, found the counter, and quickly walked off, feeling ashamed. "She was crying," he whispered to himself. "Those were tissues, and she was wiping her eyes." And as he got to his aunt's front door, Oliver looked back at the cottage. He could see the lights moving in the windows as the TV images changed. It was probably just a sad movie, he said to himself as he unlocked the door.
"Oliver,"
called his Aunt Mattie.
"come on in here. Have some more news on your little chippy in the cottage."
Oliver didn't like the uncharitable way his aunt referred to the woman, but she was far too old to be corrected by him. "Yes," he said.
"Shops in expensive stores, she does, always coming in with bags from department stores. Her kids won't live with her."
Oliver jumped in, saying, "Aunt Mattie, okay, I don't want to hear any more. I don't even know her, so I don't need to know about her, okay?" Aunt Mattie was taken aback. She looked at Oliver from under her old woman hooded eyes and said,
"You just be careful she don't get you in her snares."
"Honestly, Aunt Mattie," Oliver said, rolling his eyes. As he walked out of the room, Aunt Mattie called after him,
"Don't you go rolling your eyes at me, young man."
Oliver thought about how scared he used to be of this shriveled old woman. She had always seemed old to him. They would drive from Georgia to Alabama to see her every few months. She would pierce him with that stare, and he would feel guilty even if he hadn't done anything wrong. I'm going to stop here, and you can let me know if you'd like me to go on with the story. I'd say this is sort of like one of those Hallmark movies, has a happy ending, but also all of the little stories in it are actually based on true things that happened. And some of the people are based on real people. So if you'd like to hear more, maybe you can comment or PM me or something, and I'll read some more later or tomorrow. I need to go to my Walmart pickup right now. Have a great day.